The monster who boarded us. The ship's silver ember moved slowly through deep space. The stars outside looked calm and quiet, but inside the ship, something didn't feel right. Captain Jace sat in the command chair. He was a young human, strong and smart, but a little bored. For days, their ship had carried fuel and food between stations. Nothing exciting. No problems. Suddenly, the ship lights blinked. A red warning flashed on every screen. Unusual breach in airlock 3, the computer voice said. Jace stood up fast. Seal the airlock, he shouted. Too late, the system replied. A loud bang echoed from below. The crew froze. Someone, or something, had forced its way onto the ship. But there had been no signal, no code, no call for help. This wasn't a normal visitor. Jace ran to the hallway. 2 security guards stood in front of the elevator, holding laser rifles. What is it? One asked. Before Jace could answer, the elevator door opened. Smoke poured out. A tall figure stepped through the smoke, her footsteps heavy and slow. She was over 7 feet tall, covered in dark armor made of bones and thick leather. Her eyes glowed red. Her hair was wild and black, tied back with metal rings. She was not fully human. She was something else. One of the guards fired. The laser bounced off her chest. She moved fast, too fast. In 1 second, she was behind the first guard. She grabbed him and slammed him into the wall. The second guard tried to run. She pulled him back with one hand and knocked him out cold. Jace stepped back. His heart pounded. He pulled out a small shock blade and faced her. The tall Beastwoman looked at him, then smiled. You are the captain, she said. Her voice was low and strange, like a growl. Good. You will come with me. Jace swung the blade at her. She caught his wrist and twisted it until he dropped the weapon. Do you want to die now? She asked, her face close to his. Her breath was warm and smelled like smoke and dirt. Jace didn't answer. She laughed, then hit the back of his neck. Darkness. When Jace woke up, he was cold. He was not on silver ember anymore. The floor beneath him was metal, but old and cracked. The lights above were red and flickering. He looked around. He was inside a cage. No, a prison cell, with thick iron bars. He tried to stand, but his arms were chained. A door opened. She stepped in, the Beastwoman. Her armor was gone now. She wore something simpler, made of fur and cloth. Still tall, still powerful, but quieter now. She walked up to the bars and looked at him. My name is HFY, she said. You are mine now. Jace's voice was rough. You kidnapped me. She tilted her head. No, I conquered you. He laughed, even though it hurt. What do you want? Money. Info. I want none of that, she said. I want you. What for? He asked. She looked away for just a second. You will fight beside me. You will help me win back my world. Jace stared at her. You've got the wrong person. She leaned in closer. No, you are the one my ancestors showed me. The human flame. The one who will burn my enemies. You're insane, he whispered. She smiled. That may be true, she said, and turned to leave. Rest. You will need your strength. Jace sat alone for hours. The cage was quiet. No sounds. No other people. Just the hum of the ship. He thought about his crew. Were they dead? Alive? Why hadn't she killed him? He had faced many dangers in space. Pirates, storms, even explosions. But this was different. This wasn't about stealing. This was about power. She didn't take his ship for fuel or money. She took him. And deep inside, Jace knew. This was only the beginning. Life inside her cage. Jace woke up to the sound of footsteps. Heavy, slow, and coming closer. His eyes opened. He wasn't dreaming. The cold metal floor beneath him reminded him he was still trapped. The iron chains around his wrists were tight. His back ached, and his neck was sore where Kajera had knocked him out. The cage door creaked open, but it wasn't her. It was something else. A creature, half wolf, half reptile, walked in with a wooden bowl of water and strange red fruit. It stared at Jace with yellow eyes. No words, no sound. It just placed the bowl on the floor and left. The door slammed shut. Jace crawled to the bowl and drank fast. He didn't care what the fruit was. He ate it all. Then silence again. Only his breathing. Only the red lights above flickering in a slow rhythm, like the heartbeat of a dying machine. Hours passed. Maybe days. There were no clocks here. Sometimes other prisoners screamed in the distance. Sometimes they laughed like madmen. Sometimes they sang songs in alien languages Jace didn't understand. And sometimes Kajera came. She didn't always speak. She would just stand there, watching. Her eyes scanned his face, his body, his wounds. Jace didn't speak either, at first. But one day, when she sat down outside his cage, he broke the silence. "Why didn't you kill me?" She didn't answer. "You could have taken the ship and left, or thrown me into space." She finally spoke, her voice deep and steady. "You asked the wrong questions. Then give me the right ones," he said. She stood up. "Tomorrow, I will show you." The next day, the cage opened. Jace was led through narrow halls made of stone and metal. This wasn't a ship. It was a fortress, part machine, part mountain. Alien guards stood with bone spears and strange tattoos. Some of them stared at Jace. Some laughed. Others looked afraid. Kajera walked ahead, silent like a shadow. They reached a tall gate. It opened slowly, letting out dust and heat. What Jace saw took his breath away. A giant open chamber, an arena. Fires burned on the sides. The ground was black sand, and in the center stood a wooden statue of a beast warrior holding a torch. Jace stepped forward. "What is this place?" Kajera pointed to the statue. "This is the Hall of Trials." "For what?" "For those I choose," she said, turning to him. "For those who may fight beside me, or die in the sand." Jace laughed nervously. "I'm no fighter. I fix engines." She stepped closer, eyes blazing. "You fought me on your ship. You stood when others ran. You have something in you, something your people have forgotten." He stared at her. "You want me to become one of you?" "No," she said. "I want you to become more than you are." Later that night, Jace sat back in his cage, heart pounding. What kind of madness was this? He was a mechanic, a captain, yes, but not a warrior. But then he remembered the fire in her eyes, the way she fought with purpose, the way her people followed her. They didn't fear her. They believed in her. And for some reason, she believed in him. The next morning, Jace's cage opened again. But this time, Kajera was already inside. She carried 2 wooden swords. She tossed one at his feet. "Get up," she said. "I don't want to fight." "You don't have to want it," she said. "You only need to survive." He picked up the sword slowly. She attacked. No warning. He barely blocked it. Her strength was wild. Her speed, terrifying. She didn't fight to hurt him, but to push him, break his limits. Jace gritted his teeth. Blocked. Dodged. Swung back. Then she stopped. "You are slow," she said, "but you are learning." He was breathing hard. "Why are you training me?" She paused. "Because war is coming. And I don't want to face it alone." He looked at her carefully. For the first time, she looked human. That night, Jace couldn't sleep. He sat against the wall of the cage and watched Kajera through the bars. She was sitting near the fire, away from the others. Her armor was beside her. Her long hair fell around her shoulders. She looked tired. Old, in a way no years could explain. Jace whispered, "Who are you really?" To his surprise, she heard him. She turned, eyes glowing softly in the dark. "I was the last of my kind," she said. "Now, maybe I am the first of something new." The trial of fire and bone. The sky above the arena was dark red, like it was bleeding. Jace stood in the center, sand sticking to his boots. The air smelled like smoke, rust, and something older, like the breath of a world that had seen too much death. The crowd roared above him. Hundreds of beast warriors watched from stone seats. Some wore armor. Some held weapons. Others beat drums carved from bone. None of them smiled. He wasn't one of them. He was the outsider. The human. A weak thing brought here as a joke. And today, he would either survive or die in front of all of them. Kazura stood beside the statue in the center of the arena. Her armor was dark and heavy, her face serious. She didn't look at Jace. Instead, she raised one fist toward the sky. The crowd went silent. She spoke in her own language, voice echoing through the stone and smoke. Then, in basic English, she looked at Jace and said, "Today you enter the trial of fire and bone. You will face 3 of my warriors. If you fall, you are forgotten. If you rise, you earn your place." Jace stared at her. "And if I refuse?" Kazura's eyes narrowed. "Then your blood waters this ground." The gate behind him opened. Out walked the first challenger. He was tall, almost as tall as Kazura, with silver fur and long claws. One eye was covered with a black metal patch. He held a blade made from a broken ship wing. The crowd cheered. Jace held his training sword, a carved stick reinforced with bone at the edges. He tried to remember what Kazura had taught him. Balance. Breathe. Don't think. Move. The warrior ran at him. Jace ducked, rolled left. The sword missed his head by an inch. He countered, striking the warrior's leg. The beast growled in surprise, then punched Jace in the chest. Hard. He flew backward and hit the ground. Blood in his mouth, pain in his chest. But he stood up. Again. The warrior charged, but this time, Jace moved faster. He let the beast swing, then slid beneath him and jabbed the stick into the back of his knee. The beast fell. Jace jumped on his back and placed the wooden sword at his neck. Silence. Then cheers. The first challenger, defeated. The second came quickly. Smaller, faster. She had twin blades and moved like wind. She didn't wait. She spun toward him, slicing across his arm. Jace cried out. He backed away, trying to block her attacks, but she was too fast. She cut his leg, his side. She moved like fire, beautiful and deadly. Jace dropped to one knee. The crowd grew quiet again. But Kazura, she was smiling, because she knew what was coming. Jace closed his eyes for 1 second. He thought of Earth, his home, the engine rooms, the noise of his ship. He thought of his crew. He thought of survival. And something inside him woke up. He stood, fast. This time, when she came at him, he didn't run. He charged. She swung. He blocked. She kicked. He caught her leg and slammed her into the ground. Dust flew. She didn't rise. 2 challengers down. The crowd started chanting his name. The third and final challenger was different. Old. Massive. Wearing no armor, only a black cloak and a single axe. He walked slowly, but his eyes burned like fire. Jace's legs were shaking. Blood ran down his arm. He had nothing left. But he raised his weapon anyway. The old warrior nodded once, then came at him with the strength of a beast god. Jace dodged the first swing. He didn't dodge the second. The axe hit his side. Not sharp, but heavy. It knocked the air out of him. He dropped to the ground. The world spun. He tried to get up, but the warrior placed a foot on his chest, held him down, looked up at Kazura, I end him now, the Old One said. Kajira said nothing. Jace coughed, blood on his lips. And then, he did something no one expected. He laughed. Weak, broken, but real. The warrior frowned. You laugh in your final breath. Jace whispered. You should have finished me sooner. He grabbed a handful of sand and threw it into the warrior's face. The beast stepped back, blinking. Jace kicked him hard in the knee, rolled out, and struck the back of his leg. Then again, until the giant dropped to one knee. Jace climbed onto his back and raised the wooden blade. He didn't strike. He placed it gently on the warrior's shoulder. The crowd went silent. The beast nodded and lowered his head. The fight was over. Jace had won. Kajira stepped into the arena. Her face was unreadable. She looked at Jace. He looked back, bloody, broken, but still standing. She bent down and knelt before him. The entire arena gasped. No warrior in their culture had ever seen her kneel. Not to a king, not to a god. And now she knelt to a human. Jace whispered, "Why?" She said only this, "Because you are no longer mine. I am yours now." The Beastwoman's secret. The flames in the hall flickered low. Jace sat near the fire, his wounds wrapped in soft cloth, his muscles still sore from the battle. The arena had nearly killed him, but now the beast warriors looked at him with something new in their eyes. Respect, fear, maybe even hope. But Kajira, she had vanished after the trial. For 3 days. No orders, no lessons, no strange comments or heavy footsteps outside his door. Only silence. On the 4th night, Jace couldn't sleep. He stood and walked out of his stone chamber. The fortress was quiet. Guards nodded as he passed. No one stopped him anymore. He wasn't just a prisoner now. He was someone. He walked toward the highest tower, where a small fire still burned. And there she was. Kajira sat alone on the edge of the stone platform, legs crossed, staring at the stars. Her long hair flowed in the wind. She wore no armor, only a thin cloak that barely moved with the breeze. She didn't turn as he approached. "You came," she said softly. "I was worried," he replied. "I know." Jace stepped closer. The sky above them was clear, showing stars that didn't belong to Earth or any human map. Kajira sighed. "They told me not to bring you here, said the old ways would die if I knelt to a human. You proved them wrong." "Did I?" she said. "Or did I just prove I'm tired of being alone?" Jace sat beside her, careful not to speak too fast. She looked different tonight, not like a warrior, more like a woman haunted by something she didn't want to say. Finally, she spoke again. "I was born in fire." He turned to her. "Not the kind that warms homes," she said. "The kind that burns whole cities." Kajira's voice dropped low. "My clan lived in the red wastes. We were born fighters. No kings, no gods, only the strongest led, and the strongest protected. My mother ruled with both love and fire. But one day, a new enemy came from the sky. Machines. Tall walkers with glowing eyes. They didn't speak. They didn't feel. They just destroyed." Jace's breath slowed. "My people fought back. I was 16. I killed my first invader that year. It bled smoke, not blood." Its last words were numbers. She looked at her hands. "I still hear them sometimes in my dreams." Jace didn't speak. "They took everything," she said. "My mother, my sisters, our water, our sky. I led the last survivors into the caves. We lived like animals. And I made a vow." Her eyes burned. "I would rise. I would make them pay. And I would never again trust something that fell from the stars." She looked at him now. "Until you." Jace didn't know what to say. He had seen pain before, in soldiers, in broken men. But not like this. Not so raw. Not so sharp it could slice steel. "Why me?" he asked. "Why now?" She didn't answer at first. Then she pulled something from her cloak. A stone, carved with strange symbols, old, smooth, and glowing faintly in the dark. "This was my mother's," she said. "She called it the Firestone. Said it showed the one who would stand beside the last Queen of Flame." She handed it to Dace. The moment it touched his skin, it glowed brighter. Kajira nodded. "I thought it was a trick, a story for children. But when I took your ship, it pulsed for the first time in years." Jace stared at it. He didn't believe in magic, but this didn't feel like tech. It felt alive. A cold wind passed through the tower. Suddenly, Kajira stood. She sniffed the air. "What is it?" Jace asked. Her face turned hard again. The warrior returned. "We're not alone." They rushed down the tower steps. At the fortress gates, 2 guards lay unconscious, not dead. Their weapons untouched. Something had passed through without violence. That scared her more. Jace followed her to the war chamber. Kajira opened a dusty map. Strange marks glowed across the paper. "Someone triggered an old signal," she said. "A silent one. Not from this world." Jace looked closer. The signal pulsed from deep in the ruins, near the fallen part of her city. "What's out there?" he asked. She clenched her jaw. "The machines that destroyed my people may not be finished." Later that night, Jace stood by the fire again. Kajira walked out of the shadows and stood beside him. She looked tired. He looked stronger than before. "You don't have to face this alone," he said. She turned to him, voice low. "I've always faced it alone." "Not anymore," he replied. She stared at him. Then she smiled. Not the wild grin of a warrior, but something softer, like a spark trying to become flame again. "I should hate you," she said. "But you don't." "I don't know what I feel," she whispered. "But it scares me more than any battle." Jace nodded. "Then we're both scared. That makes us even." "The enemy of my enemy." It started with a humming sound. Low, almost like a heartbeat. Jace heard it while standing near the fortress wall at sunrise. The sky was turning orange, the clouds thin like dust trails. Kajira's world always looked tired in the morning, as if the planet itself was struggling to wake up. But this sound didn't belong here. It came from the ruins beyond the mountains, from the bones of the city Kajira had once ruled. He turned toward the sound, and then he saw it, a black shape moving through the sky. No wings, no flame, just cold, silent flight. And it wasn't flying like a bird. It was hunting. Inside the war chamber, Kajira slammed her fist on the stone table. "You said they were dead," she growled. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were not. Jace leaned over the map. "We never confirmed it. You told me the machines vanished after the last war. Maybe they didn't. They should have rusted into the sand," she muttered. "They don't belong here. Not anymore." Jace pointed to the pulsing signal on the map. "This started 3 nights ago. Same time the Firestone glowed. Same time your people started seeing shadows near the cliffs." Kajira's jaw tightened. "This is not a signal of life," she whispered. "It's a warning." They left that same hour. Kajira, Jace, and 5 of her elite warriors. The group moved quickly through narrow mountain paths and dry, cracked valleys. The closer they got to the ruins, the quieter the land became. No birds, no wind, no insects. Even the shadows felt heavier. Kajira didn't speak. Her eyes stayed on the ground, scanning every footprint, every broken tree. Jace stayed close. He now carried a short alien blade, lightweight but sharp. He wasn't a master, but he had trained with her every day since the trial. And his instincts were sharper now. Something was coming. By nightfall, they reached the edge of the old city. Ruins stretched out like broken bones. Fallen towers, burned vehicles, old battlefields that had never healed. This was once a city of songs, Kejira said. Now only ghosts live here. They set up camp inside a shattered dome. No fires, no lights, only whispers. The warriors stood watch in shifts. Jace sat near Kejira and finally asked the question in his mind. Why didn't they finish you? She looked at him. Who? The machines. They killed your family, your people, but they left you alive. Her eyes grew distant. I've wondered the same for years, she said. Maybe they saw no threat in a young girl. Or maybe they needed me to grow into something useful. Jace frowned. Useful how? She didn't answer. That night, the humming returned. Stronger, louder. And then they came. From the blackened streets, tall shadows began to rise. Their bodies were metal, but not smooth like human ships. These were rough, patchwork forms, part machine, part flesh, glowing with blue veins of energy. Their heads turned slowly, scanning the camp. Kejira stood first, drawing her sword. Everyone move. The warriors formed a circle. Jace drew his blade and stood beside her. The machines didn't speak. They didn't scream. They just charged. The fight was brutal. One of the warriors was taken down in seconds, dragged into the shadows by 3 machines. Another lost an arm before Kejira sliced the attacker in half. Jace moved quickly, striking a machine in the leg. It fell, but its arm reached up and nearly crushed him. Kejira pulled him back just in time. You stay with me, she growled. You need me, he shouted. I don't want you dead. Too bad. Their blades moved together, striking in rhythm. Jace blocked a strike. Kejira finished it. She opened a machine's chest, only to find something inside. A heart. Organic. Still beating. Her eyes widened. These are no longer machines. Jace stabbed another and saw blood. Real blood. Leaking out. What is this? He asked, breathing hard. They've merged, Kejira whispered, with the very people that they once destroyed. When the fight ended, only 3 of their warriors were still alive. Smoke rose from the broken machines. The rest of the city was silent again. Kejira dropped to one knee, exhausted. Jace sat beside her, wiping blood from his face. They're not just machines anymore, he said. Someone rebuilt them. Someone gave them life. Kejira stared into the fire. My people's bodies were never found, she said. Not all of them. Jace's eyes widened. You think? I think someone took their bodies, she said, voice trembling, and turned them into this. Later, they buried the dead. Even the beast warriors wept in silence. Kejira stood over the grave of her oldest soldier and whispered a promise in her language. Jace didn't understand the words, but he understood the pain. She turned to him. This world is not dying, Jace. It is being eaten. Slowly. And if we don't stop it, others will fall too. Jace placed a hand on her shoulder. Then we fight together. No more secrets. She looked at him with something deeper than respect now. Something close to trust. And maybe more. That night, as they rested in the ruins, Kejira spoke again. Do you know what I saw in you the first day we met? Jace shook his head. You were not afraid to lose, she said. You fought knowing you would fall. That is what makes you dangerous. That is what makes you mine. Jace smiled. And you were never a monster. You were just alone too long. For a moment, the fire flickered between them, and neither one looked away. Breaking the chains of war. The silence felt wrong. Too deep, too wide, like the world itself was holding its breath. Jace stood over the blood-marked dirt, his hands clenched around the broken handle of his blade. Smoke curled from the ruins behind him. Bodies, beast and machine, lay twisted in metal and flesh. And Kejira was gone. They had taken her. He saw it happen. 3 machines, merged and monstrous, had surrounded her during the battle. She fought like a wild flame, slicing through one, wounding another. But the third one struck her with a strange weapon, like a whip made of living wires. It wrapped around her arms and legs, pulsing with energy. She screamed, then vanished in a flash of light. Not killed, taken. And now, Jace was alone. He walked back into the ruined fortress with the two surviving warriors. They were quiet, bleeding, shaken. He gathered them in the war room, where Kajira once stood so proud. "She saved us all more than once," Jace said, his voice low but firm. "Now it's our turn." One warrior spoke. "You are not her. You are not our leader." Jace nodded. "I'm not her. I'll never be. But she chose me. That means something." The room fell quiet. Then the second warrior stood. She placed her blade on the table. "I follow the Flameborn." Jace didn't smile. He didn't feel victory. He felt fire in his chest. Not glory, but anger. That night, he stood in her private chamber, surrounded by her scent, her weapons, her history. Her cloak still hung from the wall. The firestone sat on the table, cold now, silent. Jace picked it up. "Where are you?" he whispered. The stone pulsed once, then twice. A direction, a signal. Still alive, still calling. The enemy base was buried beneath the dead valley, the place once called the Spine of Ash. A network of tunnels and caves deep in the Black Mountains. No light reached there, no sound escaped. The warriors called it the mouth of the world, where gods were swallowed and machines ruled. Jace didn't care. He went anyway. With only a small team and no hope of backup, they entered the tunnels 2 days later. The air was thick with metal dust. The walls were warm, like something was alive inside the mountain. Every few steps, they passed remains of old battles, melted blades, bones fused with armor, broken machine heads. One hallway had marks on the wall. Kajira's name, scratched in blood. Jace's heart nearly broke. She was still fighting. Even in chains, they found the core chamber at the deepest point, a giant black dome. Inside, machines moved like insects, building new bodies, merging old ones, whispering strange code in a dead language. And in the center, she hung from chains, arms stretched, head down, still breathing. Kajira. Her eyes opened as Jace stepped into the light. He saw no fear, only rage. "You came," she whispered. "Of course I did," he said, running to her side. But before he could reach her, something dropped from above. A machine unlike the others, tall, silver, wrapped in cables like vines. Its voice was deep, not in words, but inside Jace's mind. "She is the seed. You are the flame. Together, you burn too bright." Jace drew his blade, then tried to put me out. The machine moved fast. Jace dodged left, then rolled forward. The warriors fought at his sides, keeping other machines back. He struck the creature's leg. Sparks flew, but no damage. It spun, arms wide like scythes, knocking Jace to the ground. Blood filled his mouth. He got up again. Kajira groaned, trying to break free. The wires shocked her each time she moved. Jace climbed to the machine's back, stabbing deep into its shoulder. It screamed in static. He reached its head and shoved the firestone into its eye. The stone pulsed, bright, blinding. The machine froze. Its body cracked. Then it shattered like glass. Silence. The chamber trembled. Kajira's chains fell. She dropped into Jace's arms. "I told you not to die," he whispered. She laughed weakly. "You always do the opposite of what I say." They limped out together, side by side. The tunnels fell behind them, broken and burning. And when they reached the surface, the sky was blue again, as if the world had been waiting for them. Back at the fortress, the warriors stood in lines as Kajira entered. Bruised, scared, but unbroken. Jace walked behind her. She raised her hand. "Your Flameborn risked everything," she said. "Not for glory, but for me. For all of you." The crowd was silent. Then one by one, they knelt. To her. And to him. That night, Kejira stood with Jace on the same tower where they once watched stars in silence. She turned to him. "I was raised to be a weapon. Now, I think I want to live." "With me?" he asked. She didn't answer. She just leaned in and placed her forehead gently against his. It wasn't a kiss. It was something deeper. Older. More true. "I was never your master," she whispered. "You were always my equal. The human who led the beasts." The horns of war echoed across the Red Valley. Drums beat like thunder. Thousands of beast warriors stood in rows, their armor shining in the dawn light. Flags of Kejira's fallen clan waved once more. Old songs were sung. Some cried. Some growled. But all stood ready. At the front of the army stood two figures. Kejira, proud, tall, scared, and strong. And Jace, the human who once fell into her world as a prisoner. Now the firestone burned on a chain around his neck. He wasn't their pet. He wasn't their trophy. He was their Flameborn. The enemy had awakened across the valley. The machine-flesh army now spread like a sickness. Thousands of them. Twisted and reborn, led by the minds of the dead. Creatures made from stolen bodies. Eyes glowing like broken stars. At their center, the core leader waited. Not a single form, but a network of minds stitched into one. Its message echoed inside their heads. "You were beasts. You were broken. You will become one with us." Kejira shouted back, her voice full of thunder. "You took my family. You took our dead. Now you face what you created." She raised her sword to the sky. Then, slowly, she lowered it, toward Jace. All eyes turned to him. Jace took one step forward. He had no giant sword, no beast claws, no armor of bone, only his blade. And the flame in his chest. "I'm not one of you," he said loudly, "but I stand with you." The crowd murmured. "I came from a world where people forget what courage is, but you reminded me." He turned to Kejira. "You gave me a reason to fight. So now, I fight for you." He looked back at the army. "For all of you." He raised his blade. The warriors roared so loud the ground shook. The charge began like a storm. From the cliffs, from the hills, from the caves, Kejira's warriors poured out like rivers of fire. Jace led the front line, sprinting into battle. Blades met metal. Claws tore through circuits. Screams filled the air. The machines pushed back, forming tight walls. They fought without emotion. They reformed when broken. They used the bodies of the fallen as shields. But Jace had studied their rhythm. He slipped past their guards, cut through wires, found weak spots. He shouted orders in a mix of human and beast tongue. His team followed, slashing and burning their way through the front line. Kejira fought like lightning beside him. Together, they were unstoppable. Then came the second wave. Flying machines dropped from the sky, wings wide and sharp as knives. They rained down spikes of fire. Jace raised his arm. Shields. Beast warriors locked shoulder to shoulder with tall bone shields. But one spike came too fast. It was aimed at Kejira. Jace saw it and moved. He leaped, tackling her to the ground. The spike struck his back. The world blurred. Pain. Fire. Darkness. Jace lay still for a moment. The noise around him faded. Then he heard her voice. "Jace. No. No." Her hands were on his face. Her tears hit his skin. He opened his eyes, smiled through blood. "You owe me now," he said weakly. She laughed and cried at the same time. Then lifted him up. "You fight beside me again. One more time." He nodded. "One more time." With Jace wounded but still standing, they reached the core of the machine army, a black pyramid rising from the earth like a grave. The door opened. Inside, a cold voice spoke. "You could have ruled. You could have merged. But now you will end." Kashira stepped in first. "No, now we begin." Inside, they fought through hallways of light and wire. Warriors fell, but pushed on. Jace reached the heart chamber. There, a massive brain-like mass floated inside a glass case, full of wires, whispers, and memories of the stolen dead. Jace saw faces flicker on its surface. Old beast warriors, even Kajira's mother. He turned to her. "You don't have to see this." She stepped forward. "I must." Kajira drew her blade. Jace pulled the firestone from his neck. Together, they struck. Blade met glass. Stone met core. The brain cracked. Screamed. Burned. Exploded. Light poured out from the core. Machines across the valley stopped moving. One by one, they collapsed. The war was over. Outside, silence returned. Beast warriors began to cheer, cry, hug. Jace stood with Kajira on the battlefield. She looked at him. "You changed me," she said. "No," he replied. "You found the part of me I forgot." She laughed. "You're not my prize anymore." He grinned. "Then what am I?" She stepped close. "You are my choice." And she kissed him. The firestone pulsed. Above them, the sun broke through the clouds. For the first time in years. Weeks later, the fortress was rebuilt. The firestone was placed at the center of the new hall. Children played in the fields. Jace stood beside Kajira as leaders from other clans arrived. Some bowed to her, some to him. All of them listened. He had become a symbol, not of power, but of balance. The human who came from nowhere, who knelt to no one, but lifted an entire people, and reminded a world of what it meant to fight for more than survival, to fight for each other.